Welcome back to Under Baobab Skies. Tonight, we delve into the hidden truths of the Swahili coast and more. Along the shores of the Indian Ocean, where coral stone and mangrove roots intertwine, there once thrived a people whose very essence was shaped by the elements of wind, salt, and trade. Picture fishermen, their weathered hands casting nets into treacherous waters. There lives a constant dance with the sea. Imagine queens, their names whispered through the corridors of time, leaving indelible marks on history. Envision coralstone cities rising like pearlescent sentinels along the coastline, their walls echoing tales of centuries past. And in the perfumed nights, nobility savored clove-spiced rice as dhows set sail beneath a canopy of stars, their wooden hulls creaking with the promise of adventure. This coast was far more than a mere geographical location. It was a living, breathing rhythm, a symphony of languages intermingling, of oars gently caressing water, of prayers carried by the sea breeze at dawn. Tonight, we invite you to lose yourself in this mesmerizing cadence, to feel the pulse of a world both ancient and eternal. Let us approach this journey with reverence, moving at a pace that allows us to savor every moment, as if each word were a precious shell we're carefully lifting from the sand. The Swahili coast, a ribbon of culture and commerce, stretching from the Horn of Somalia to the lush shores of Mozambique, is vast and varied. But our tale tonight focuses on the heart of this coastal tapestry, the storied cities of Kilwa, Mombasa, and Lamu. These are places where coral was transformed into impregnable fortresses, where trade winds carried not just goods, but whispers of distant lands. Arabia, India, and the mysterious realms of China. Yet, let us not be seduced solely by tales of grandeur and opulence. For every story of a bejeweled sultan or a merchant's overflowing coffers, there are countless untold narratives of struggle, survival, and silent heroism. We must also shine a light on the humbler truths, the daily battles fought by ordinary men and women against the capricious nature of their world. Consider the fishermen, those unsung heroes of the coast, men who rose before dawn, their lives inextricably bound to the moods of the sea. They ventured out into waters that could turn from calm to tempestuous in the blink of an eye, knowing full well that each journey might be their last. How many were claimed by sudden storms, their bodies becoming one with the ocean floor, their families left to scan the horizon in vain? And what of the ever-present spectre of danger that lurked beyond the safety of the harbor? Pirates and slavers, their ships hidden just beyond the curve of the earth, ready to descend upon unsuspecting villages and turn lives upside down in an instant. The fear of such raids must have been a constant companion to those who called the coast their home. Even in times of peace and prosperity, life was far from easy for the common folk. The hunger for trade taxes, insatiable and unrelenting, weighed heavily on the shoulders of even the poorest citizens. Every transaction, every exchange of goods, came with the burden of tribute to be paid to those in power. So tonight, we begin our journey where all life on the coast truly began, with those who lived and died by the water. We'll listen to the tales of the fishermen first, their stories as deep and complex as the waters they navigated. We'll feel the weight of their nets, the sting of salt on their skin, and the ever-present awareness of the thin line between life and death that defined their existence. From there, we'll rise through the echelons of society, walking in the footsteps of queens who left their mark on history. We'll wander through the ruins of once mighty coral stone cities, our fingers tracing the intricate carvings that have withstood the test of time. And as the sun sets, we'll allow ourselves to be carried away by the perfumed nights of nobility, where the air was heavy with the scent of spices and the promise of untold riches, Take a moment now. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. Can you smell the salt in the air? Can you feel the gentle pull of the tide, urging us forward into this tale of triumph and tragedy, of ordinary lives and extraordinary legacies? You are now under baobab skies, and our journey into the heart of the Swahili coast begins now. Let the rhythm of the waves carry you back in time to a world where the line between legend and reality blurred with each passing tide. The story of the Swahili coast awaits, rich with hidden truths and untold wonders. Are you ready to dive in? By the end of this segment, you'll understand why the Swahili coast was more than just a stretch of land. It was a meeting point where cultures, livelihoods, and secrets intertwined with the sea. The mornings along the Swahili coast began with a symphony of sounds, the gentle roll of waves kissing the shore, the rhythmic hum of traders setting out their wares, and the joyous laughter of children running barefoot across the warm sand. Villagers here didn't turn their backs to the ocean. Instead, they embraced it, opening themselves to the vast expanse of blue. Life on the coast leaned on the tide, as dependable and yet as unpredictable as the moon that pulled it. To live here was to live in harmony with the sea. Families depended on its bounty. Fish carried in intricately woven baskets, shells polished to a shimmering gleam by the relentless tide, and coral used to construct homes that seemed to breathe in the salty air. The coast wasn't merely a backdrop to their lives. It was a living, breathing partner, shaping everything from their daily diet to the very architecture that sheltered them. Beyond the shore, winding alleyways painted with sun-bleached coral stone led to marketplaces alive with a cacophony of voices. Arabic, Bantu, and Persian words mixed freely in the air, a testament to the coast's long history as a place of exchange and cultural fusion. Trade here wasn't limited to gold or ivory. It was a vibrant exchange of ideas, songs, and styles. A single necklace might carry beads from distant India, ivory from the heart of Africa, and the delicate touch of a skilled Swahili artisan. But woven beneath this daily rhythm of life and commerce were secrets as deep as the ocean itself. The same waters that brought wealth and opportunity also carried danger on their currents. Pirates lurked beyond the horizon, their sails a constant threat to merchant vessels. Storms could sweep in without warning, swallowing entire fleets and the fortunes they carried. And in the narrow streets and bustling markets, envy brewed quietly between neighbors, a silent undercurrent to the outward displays of prosperity. When the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, the shoreline transformed. The once busy beach grew quiet, save for the eternal whisper of waves. Dhows returned from their daily voyages, their sails folded like tired wings against the darkening sky. Fires flickered to life along the sand, casting long shadows of families gathered to share food, stories, and the day's experiences. In the stillness of night, the coast revealed its most guarded truth, that survival here required a delicate balance between openness to the world and caution against its dangers, between welcoming strangers and protecting one's own. The Swahili coast was a place where time seemed to move differently. Days were marked not by clocks, but by the rhythms of the tides and the movements of the sun across the sky. Fishermen rose before dawn, their silhouettes dark against the lightening horizon. As they pushed their wooden dhows into the water, the soft swaying of palm fronds in the morning breeze seemed to whisper ancient secrets, passed down through generations of coastal dwellers. As the day progressed, the air filled with the scent of spices and the sea. In the markets, traders displayed their goods with pride. Fragrant cloves and cinnamon from the islands, shimmering silks from far-off lands, and intricately carved wooden boxes that held stories of their own. The narrow streets buzzed with activity, a living tapestry of cultures woven together by centuries of trade and interaction. Children played games in the shadow of ancient mosques, their laughter echoing off walls adorned with intricate Islamic designs. Elders sat in the shade, sharing wisdom and keeping watchful eyes on the comings and goings of both neighbors and strangers. Every face told a story, every interaction a small chapter in the grand narrative of coastal life. Yet, for all its vibrancy and beauty, life on the Swahili coast was not without its challenges. The same sea that provided so generously could also take away in an instant. Families lived with the constant awareness that loved ones who set out on fishing expeditions or trading voyages might not return. The threat of storms, pirates, or simply the vast unpredictability of the ocean loomed large in the collective consciousness of coastal communities. This awareness bred a unique resilience among the Swahili people. They learned to read the moods of the sea, to interpret the subtle changes in wind and wave that could spell the difference between a bountiful catch and a perilous journey. Their homes, built from coral, stone, and mangrove wood, were designed to withstand the harsh salt air and occasional tempests that battered the coast. As night fell, the coast took on a different character. The bustle of day gave way to a more contemplative atmosphere. Lanterns swayed gently on the decks of anchored dhows, their light dancing on the water like earthbound stars. On the beach, families gathered around fires, sharing meals of fresh fish and coconut rice. The air filled with the soft strumming of ouds and the melodic chanting of ancient poems. Stories of love, loss, and adventure passed down through generations. In these quiet evening moments, the true spirit of the Swahili coast revealed itself. It was a place where the past and present intertwined, where ancient traditions coexisted with the constant influx of new ideas and influences. The people of the coast were guardians of a rich cultural heritage, yet they remained open to the world, always ready to adapt and evolve. As the moon rose higher in the sky, casting a silver path across the water, the coast settled into a peaceful slumber. But even in sleep, it seemed to pulse with potential energy, ready to awaken to another day of trade, cultural exchange, and the endless dance between land and sea. The Swahili coast was more than just a geographical feature. It was a living, breathing entity that shaped the lives of all who called it home. It was a place of contradictions, a haven of tranquility and a hub of bustling activity, a melting pot of cultures and a fiercely protected homeland, a source of great wealth and a reminder of life's precariousness. To understand the Swahili coast was to understand a way of life that had endured for centuries, adapting and evolving with each passing generation. It was a testament to human resilience, creativity, and the enduring power of cultural exchange. As the night deepened and the stars wheeled overhead, the coast held its secrets close, ready to reveal them anew with the dawn of each new day. The Swahili coast pulsed with the rhythm of trade, its lifeblood flowing with each incoming tide. As the sun rose over the horizon, sails appeared like pale wings, heralding the arrival of dhows from distant lands. These vessels, laden with more than mere cargo, brought the essence of Arabia, India, and even far-off China to the shores of East Africa. With them came not just goods, but whispers of foreign fashions, unfamiliar customs, and news that would slowly weave themselves into the fabric of coastal life. At the bustling harbor, a symphony of scents filled the air. The sharp, sweet aroma of cinnamon mingled with the warmth of cloves and the earthy notes of cardamom. These spices, capable of transforming the humblest meal into a feast fit for kings, were just the beginning of the treasures on offer. Merchants carefully guarded small pouches filled with glittering gold dust, their value evident in the way they were handled. Nearby, ivory tusks stood tall and proud, their pale surfaces catching the light like ancient monuments to nature's bounty. Each item in the marketplace seemed to carry within it the story of a long journey, a silent testament to the vast networks that connected this coast to the wider world. As traders haggled and porters moved swiftly with their burdens, the harbor buzzed with a cacophony of languages. Arabic merchants conversed with Indian sailors, while local Swahili brokers mediated deals in a blend of tongues that had become the lingua franca of this cosmopolitan shore. The sea shimmered in the background, a constant reminder of the roots that brought such diversity to this place. Yet trade along the Swahili coast was about far more than the accumulation of wealth. It was a fundamental part of identity, a way of connecting to a world that stretched far beyond the horizon. Step into a Swahili home, and you'd find evidence of these connections in every corner. A intricately woven mat from Zanzibar might cover the floor, its patterns telling stories of island craftsmanship. Delicate porcelain bowls from China could sit atop low tables, their blue and white designs a stark contrast to the warm hues of locally carved wooden furniture. These weren't mere decorations or status symbols. Each object was a tangible link to distant lands, a proof of the homeowner's place in a vast, interconnected world. This openness to the world, however, was not without its complexities. The very networks that brought prosperity and cultural richness also exposed the coast to vulnerabilities. Foreign traders, drawn by the promise of lucrative deals, sometimes overstayed their welcome. Their prolonged presence could shift the delicate balance of local politics, forge unexpected alliances, and blur the lines between insider and outsider. For some, along the coast, this constant influx of new influences was a gift, an endless source of opportunity and enrichment. For others, it represented a bargain struck with risk, a dance with forces that could uplift or undermine their way of life. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the coral stone houses that lined the shore, families gathered for their evening meals. Inside these homes, the day's activities were reflected in the objects around them. An ornate wooden door, its intricate carvings telling stories of generations past, stood as a guardian between the public world of trade and the private realm of family life. Low tables set with a mix of local and imported dishes spoke to the blending of culinary traditions. The soft glow of oil lamps illuminated faces, young and old, all partaking in conversations that might range from local gossip to tales of distant lands brought by the day's visitors. With each cycle of the tides, the Swahili coast lived through a rhythm of welcoming strangers, celebrating profits and bracing for the unknown. Every ship that departed left behind more than just traded goods. New words entered the local lexicon. Ideas took root and flourished, and sometimes new debts or obligations were formed. The ocean, ever present and ever silent, watched over this constant exchange, its waves carrying away old certainties and bringing in fresh possibilities with each turn. As night fell and the last of the day's trading vessels slipped away into the darkness, a different kind of silence settled over the shore. It was a silence pregnant with change, for the world had once again left its mark. The empty harbor, now calm after the day's frenetic activity, reflected the fading light of the sun. Gentle waves lapped at the shore, their soft rhythm a lullaby to a coast forever changed by the day's encounters. In the quiet of the evening, the true impact of trade on the Swahili coast became most apparent. Families gathered around their meals, perhaps using spices that had only recently arrived from across the ocean. Children practiced new words they had overheard at the market, their tongues wrapping around sounds from faraway lands. Elders pondered the news brought by sailors, weighing how distant events might ripple through their own lives. Even in sleep, the coast dreamed in a language enriched by centuries of exchange. With the dawn, the cycle would begin anew. Fresh sails would appear on the horizon, bringing with them the promise of new encounters, new challenges, and new opportunities. The Swahili coast stood ready, its people poised between tradition and transformation, forever adapting to the ebb and flow of global currents that washed upon their shores. This was the essence of life on the Swahili coast, a constant dance between the familiar and the foreign, the local and the global. Each day brought its own small revolutions, shifts in perspective that accumulated over time to reshape the very foundations of society. Yet, through it all, the core identity of the coast remained resilient and adaptive, forever enriched by the tides of trade that ebbed and flowed with the eternal rhythm of the sea. As the stars faded and the first light of a new day painted the sky, the Swahili coast awakened once more. The air filled with the scent of brewing coffee and the calls of early risers heading to the harbor. Another day of trade, another opportunity for exchange, another moment in the long history of a place where worlds met and mingled. The ocean stretched out before them, a vast highway of possibility, promising that no matter what the new day might bring, it would never be quite the same as the one before. The Swahili coast was more than markets and harbors. It was a meeting place of voices. In the narrow streets, you could hear the rise and fall of Kiswahili, woven with Arabic greetings, hints of Persian poetry, and the practical tongues of traders from across the Indian Ocean. This tapestry of sound was as much a part of the landscape as the whitewashed buildings and the scent of spices carried on the sea breeze. Language was not just communication. It was identity. Every word spoken carried layers of history, each syllable a testament to the complex cultural heritage of the coast. Kiswahili itself was born of mixture. African Bantu roots blended with Arabic rhythm and vocabulary. To speak, it was to declare yourself both local and global, a citizen of the shore and the sea. The language flowed like the tides, carrying with it the stories of countless generations who had lived, loved, and traded along these shores. In the bustling marketplaces, merchants haggled in a symphony of dialects. A Gujarati trader might begin a negotiation in broken Swahili, only to switch effortlessly to Arabic when discussing the finer points of a deal. Persian sailors called out greetings to old friends, their voices carrying hints of faraway ports and exotic adventures. The air was thick with the music of commerce, a melody as old as the trade routes themselves. But it wasn't just in the markets that language wove its spell. In the quiet courtyards of grand houses, scholars debated philosophy in elegant Arabic, their words as intricate as the carved wooden doors that surrounded them. Children played in the streets, their games accompanied by rhymes passed down through generations, a living link to the past. And in the mosques, the call to prayer rang out 5 times a day, a reminder of the faith that bound many coastal communities together. As the sun set and the heat of the day began to fade, the narrow streets came alive with a different kind of language. In poetry circles, verses praised the sea like a beloved, or warned of its dangers like a jealous rival. The words flowed like water, each line carefully crafted to evoke emotion and paint vivid pictures in the minds of the listeners. These gatherings were more than entertainment. They were a celebration of the power of language to capture the essence of human experience. Sailors preparing for long voyages, chanted prayers before setting out, their words drifting upward like sails of sound. These incantations were a bridge between the known world of the shore and the vast, unpredictable realm of the ocean. Each phrase was imbued with hope, fear, and the deep respect that all seafarers held for the waters that could bring both fortune and disaster. Even trade deals were half performance, full of proverbs and subtle wit, where clever speech could win more than gold. A well-placed metaphor or a timely joke could sway negotiations, building bridges of understanding between cultures. The most successful traders were those who could navigate not just the seas, but the complex currents of language and custom that flowed through every interaction. But language also guarded secrets. As night fell and the streets grew quiet, families gathered in the privacy of their homes. Here, in hushed tones, oral histories were passed down from elders to children. These were stories of lineage, of struggles overcome, and of quiet triumphs. They spoke of ancestors who had sailed from distant lands, of rebellions against oppressors, and of love that had endured against all odds. These were stories never meant for foreign ears, carried like pearls hidden deep inside a shell, protected and cherished. In the soft glow of oil lamps, grandmothers spoke of times long past, their words painting pictures more vivid than any tapestry. Children listened with wide eyes, absorbing not just the tales, but the very cadence and rhythm of their heritage. These nightly rituals were more than storytelling. They were the passing of a torch, ensuring that the flame of cultural identity would burn bright in the hearts of the next generation. The languages of the Swahili coast were not static. They evolved with each passing ship, each new trade agreement, each cultural exchange. Words from Hindi, Portuguese, and even English found their way into the local lexicon, enriching the linguistic palette. Yet, at its core, the coastal tongue remained distinctly its own, a reflection of the unique blend of influences that had shaped this world between land and sea. For those who lived on the Swahili shore, language was as essential as the air they breathed. It was the medium through which alliances were forged, knowledge was shared, and love was expressed. Every conversation, from the most mundane to the most profound, was an affirmation of identity and a link in a chain that stretched back through centuries. In the markets, the poetry circles, and the quiet family gatherings, words were as valuable as any ivory tusk or spice sack. They built trust, shaped identity, and left marks deeper than the tide. To live on the Swahili shore was to live in a world where every sentence was history, and every silence held meaning. As the moon rose over the Indian Ocean, casting a silver path across the waves, the sounds of the day faded into a different kind of eloquence. The rhythmic lapping of water against the shore, the whisper of palm fronds in the night breeze. These two were languages of the coast, speaking of the eternal dance between land and sea. In this nocturnal symphony, one could almost hear the echoes of all the voices that had ever spoken along these shores. A ghostly chorus of traders, poets, sailors, and dreamers. And so, as the Swahili coast slept, cradled by the murmur of the ocean, it dreamed in 100 tongues. Each word, each phrase, each story was a thread in the vast tapestry of coastal life, weaving together past and present, local and foreign, land and sea. In this world of voices, language was more than just a tool for communication. It was the very essence of what it meant to be a child of the shore, a citizen of the vast, interconnected world that stretched from the African coast to the distant horizons of the Indian Ocean and beyond. For the people of the Swahili coast, the sea was never just water. It was the road to the world. Each wave carried stories of travelers, merchants, and sailors who trusted the monsoon winds to guide them. The vast expanse of the Indian Ocean stretched before them, not as a barrier, but as a highway connecting distant lands and cultures. When the Kaskazi winds blew from the northeast, ships from Arabia and India arrived heavy with goods. Silk as smooth as a whisper, glass beads that caught the light like dewdrops, carved wood telling tales of faraway forests, and porcelain as thin as morning light. These treasures from distant shores filled the markets of the Swahili coast, bringing with them the scents and sounds of exotic lands. As the seasons turned, so did the winds. When the Kusi winds swept back from the southwest, it was time for the Swahili merchants to send their own bounty across the waves. African ivory, prized for its purity and strength, set sail alongside glittering gold that spoke of the continent's hidden wealth. Tortoiseshell, carefully harvested and crafted, made its way to distant ports, while aromatic resins filled the air with their intoxicating fragrances, a promise of the mysteries that lay beyond the horizon. The rhythm of these winds shaped life itself along the Swahili coast. Markets swelled with foreign accents when ships arrived, a cacophony of languages and dialects mixing in the air like spices in a pot. Traders haggled over prices, their voices rising and falling like the tides. Children darted between stalls, wide-eyed at the strange and wonderful items on display. But when the sails disappeared over the horizon, a different kind of quiet settled over the towns. It was a time of anticipation, of planning for the next arrival, of dreaming about distant shores. Even the most important events in people's lives often timed themselves to the season of arrival. Weddings were planned to coincide with the coming of the trade winds, ensuring that the celebrations would be adorned with the finest silks and jewels from across the sea. Harvests were scheduled with an eye to the ocean's calendar, knowing that the bounty of the land would soon be exchanged for the treasures of distant shores. Community gatherings took on a special significance when visitors from far-off lands could join in the festivities, bringing with them stories and customs that enriched the tapestry of Swahili culture. For the people of the coast, prosperity and emptiness were tied to the breath of the ocean. The arrival of ships meant not just goods, but news, ideas, and opportunities. It was a time of plenty, when pockets were full and spirits were high. But when the winds changed and the ships departed, a different kind of richness settled in. A time for reflection, for consolidating gains, and for preparing for the next cycle of abundance. To the sailors who braved its waters, the sea was more than just a means of transportation. It was alive, a companion that gave as much as it could take. They knew its moods intimately, reading the subtle changes in the color of the water, the shape of the waves, and the feel of the wind on their skin. These were not just signs to be interpreted, but a language to be learned and respected. Songs were sung to the sea, melodies that had been passed down through generations of seafarers. These were not mere entertainment, but a way of communing with the vast waters that held their fates in its depths. Prayers were whispered before journeys, quiet words of hope and supplication to whatever forces might be listening. Some sailors cast offerings into the waves, a handful of grain, a splash of fresh water, or even a precious coin. A small sacrifice to ensure safe passage. To ignore the ocean's moods was unthinkable. Every family along the Swahili coast had someone who had been claimed by the sea. Fathers, brothers, sons who had set out on a bright morning and never returned. The ocean's power was a constant presence in their lives, a reminder of both the opportunities and the dangers that lay beyond the shore. And so, the Indian Ocean was not a barrier separating people, but a bridge that carried ideas, faiths, and cultures like cargo. The constant ebb and flow of trade brought more than just material goods. It brought new ways of thinking, new beliefs, and new artistic expressions. The Swahili culture itself was a testament to this exchange, a unique blend of African, Arab, and Indian influences that had been shaped by centuries of maritime contact. The horizon was never an ending to the Swahili people. It was a beginning, waiting to be crossed. Each dawn brought the possibility of a sail appearing on that distant line where sky met sea. Each sunset held the promise of tomorrow's journey. The ocean was a constant invitation to explore, to trade, to learn, and to grow. In the bustling ports of the Swahili coast, one could hear a dozen languages spoken in a single day. The air was thick with the scent of spices from distant lands, mingling with the salt of the sea. Craftsmen worked tirelessly, incorporating techniques and designs from across the ocean into their own traditions. Scholars pored over texts in Arabic, Persian, and local languages, synthesizing knowledge from multiple cultures. The sea's influence extended far beyond the coast, reaching deep into the interior of Africa. Trade routes snaked inland, carrying the treasures of the ocean to peoples who had never seen its waters. In return, the products of the African heartland made their way to the coast, ready to be sent across the waves to distant markets. This network of exchange shaped economies, politics, and societies far from the shore, creating a web of connections that spanned continents. For the children of the Swahili coast, the sea was a constant source of wonder and possibility. They grew up with stories of distant lands, of adventures on the high seas, and of the strange and marvelous things that came from beyond the horizon. Many dreamed of the day when they too would set sail, following in the wake of countless generations before them. As the sun set over the endless sea, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, the silhouette of a dhow could often be seen fading into the light. It was a sight that symbolized both departure and return, a reminder of the eternal cycle of coming and going that defined life on the Swahili coast. For those watching from the shore, it was a moment of reflection on the journeys past, the ones yet to come, and the vast, interconnected world that the ocean had brought to their doorstep. In the quiet of the evening, as the last rays of sunlight danced on the waves, the people of the Swahili coast would gather to share stories and songs. These tales, passed down through generations, spoke of brave sailors, cunning merchants, and the capricious nature of the sea itself. They were more than just entertainment. They were a way of preserving knowledge, of teaching the young about the world beyond their shores, and of keeping alive the spirit of adventure that had always defined their relationship with the ocean. As night fell and the stars emerged, twinkling like scattered diamonds on a velvet cloth, the people of the Swahili coast would look to the heavens. These same stars that guided their ships across the vast expanse of the Indian Ocean connected them to all those who sailed beneath them. In that moment, the sea was not just a road to the world, it was the world itself, full of endless possibilities, waiting to be explored with each new dawn. If the ocean was the highway, the market was the beating heart where that traffic arrived. Every Swahili town had a central square, a place alive with bargaining voices, the clink of metal and the scent of spices rising in the air. These marketplaces were more than just centers of commerce. They were the lifeblood of coastal communities, pulsing with the energy of countless cultures converging on African shores. As dawn broke over the horizon, traders would begin to set up their wares. Ivory tusks gleamed in the sunlight, stacked beside baskets of dried fish. Strings of glass beads, brought from faraway lands, sparkled like captured rainbows. And behind them stood the proud traders of the coast. Men and women skilled in the art of weighing value not only in goods but in trust. Their eyes were sharp, their hands calloused from years of handling precious commodities, and their voices carried the confidence of those who knew the true worth of what they offered. The air was thick with the mingled aromas of cardamom, cinnamon, and clove, spices that had traveled across vast oceans to reach these bustling squares. Bolts of vibrant silk from China lay next to intricately woven kanga cloth, their patterns telling stories of both local traditions and distant influences. Gold from the African interior glinted alongside pearls from the Indian Ocean, each item a testament to the far-reaching networks of trade that crisscrossed the Swahili coast. But trade was not only about things, it was about ideas. From the lips of a traveler came new ways of measuring time, new designs for clothing, even recipes that married foreign spices with African grains. A Swahili dish was never just local. It was a memory of journeys wrapped into every bite. In the hands of skilled cooks, these ingredients became a fusion of flavors that spoke of distant lands and ancient traditions. As the day progressed, the marketplace would come alive with a cacophony of languages. Arabic merchants haggled with Swahili traders, while Indian sailors exchanged stories with local fishermen. The air was filled with the rhythmic chanting of auctioneers, the laughter of children darting between stalls, and the melodic calls to prayer echoing from nearby mosques. It was a symphony of human interaction, each voice contributing to the rich tapestry of coastal life. In one corner, an elderly woman ground spices with a well-worn stone mortar, her practiced hands creating aromatic blends that would season the evening's meals. The red and yellow powders mixed with the scent of grilled fish, creating an irresistible aroma that drew hungry patrons from all corners of the market. Nearby, a group of men huddled around a game of Bo, their strategic moves mirroring the complex negotiations taking place in the stalls around them. But there was something deeper at work. Markets were also performances. A trader's reputation was his shield, and a sharp tongue could win more than a sharp bargain. Trust traveled quickly along the coast. An honest merchant in Kilwa might be greeted as a friend in Mombasa simply because his word had sailed ahead of him. The marketplace was a stage where reputations were built and fortunes were made or lost on the strength of one's character. Stories of legendary traders were passed down through generations. Tales of men and women whose integrity was as valuable as the goods they sold. These narratives served as both inspiration and warning, reminding young merchants of the importance of honesty in a world where a single broken promise could shatter years of carefully cultivated trust. As the sun began to set, the energy of the marketplace shifted. Lanterns were lit, casting a warm glow over traders and their colorful wares. The frenetic pace of daytime bargaining gave way to a more relaxed atmosphere, where friends and strangers alike gathered to share meals and exchange news. It was in these twilight hours that the true magic of the Swahili marketplace revealed itself. Storytellers emerged, their voices weaving tales of distant lands and mythical creatures. Musicians strummed their ouds and beat their drums, filling the air with melodies that spoke of love, loss, and adventure. In the flickering light of oil lamps, the marketplace transformed into a realm of imagination and possibility, where the boundaries between the known and the unknown blurred. In this way, the marketplace was not just about wealth, it was about belonging. It tied villages to kingdoms, and kingdoms to oceans. It made the Swahili coast not a margin of Africa, but a center of the world. Here, in these bustling squares, the pulse of global trade beat strongest, connecting the heart of Africa to the farthest reaches of the known world. The marketplace was a microcosm of the larger Swahili society, a place where social hierarchies could be both reinforced and challenged. A skilled artisan might find himself in conversation with a wealthy merchant, while a humble fisherman's daughter could aspire to become a respected trader in her own right. It was a space of opportunity, where fortunes could be made and dreams could take flight on the wings of commerce. As night fell, the last transactions were completed, and traders began to pack away their unsold goods. But the spirit of the marketplace lingered, infusing the streets and homes of the Swahili towns with its energy. In courtyards and on rooftops, families gathered to share meals seasoned with spices from distant lands. Their conversations peppered with words borrowed from a dozen different languages. The influence of the marketplace extended far beyond its physical boundaries. It shaped the architecture of Swahili towns, with grand stone houses built to showcase the wealth of successful merchants. It influenced fashion as locals adopted styles and fabrics from across the Indian Ocean, and it left an indelible mark on the Swahili language itself, enriching it with loan words that reflected the cosmopolitan nature of coastal society. In the quiet hours before dawn, as the town slept, the echoes of the day's trading could still be heard. The whispers of ancient bargains, the laughter of long-gone merchants, and the promises of future prosperity all mingled in the air. And as the first light of morning touched the horizon, the cycle would begin anew, with traders once again setting out their wares and preparing to welcome the world to their shores. The marketplaces of the Swahili coast were more than just centers of trade. They were the beating hearts of a civilization that bridged continents and cultures. In these vibrant squares, the story of human connection was written anew each day, a testament to the enduring power of commerce to bring people together across vast distances and diverse backgrounds. It was here, amidst the spices and silks, the ivory and gold, that the Swahili people forged their identity as citizens of a truly global world. As the markets thrived and the ocean carried wealth, the Swahili towns began to carve their identity into the very earth. Along the coastline, walls rose not from mud or timber, but from coral stone pooled from the sea. Each block carried the memory of the ocean, and together they became houses, mosques, and tombs that seemed to breathe salt into the air. The Swahili people, with their rich tapestry of cultures, etched their stories into these structures, creating a living testament to their maritime heritage. A visitor walking these streets centuries ago would have been greeted by a sight both familiar and exotic. Doorways taller than a man stood proudly, framed in wood carved with intricate designs that spoke of distant lands and ancient traditions. Spirals danced alongside stars, while sacred verses in flowing script whispered tales of faith and devotion. These doors were more than mere entrances. They were portals to a world where cultures collided and merged in beautiful harmony. The doors themselves told stories that spanned continents and generations. Indian hands had lovingly shaped the tick, their skilled craftsmanship evident in every curve and line. Persian designs curled like waves across the wood, bringing to mind the vast oceans that connected these distant shores. African artisans had added their own rhythm of patterns, infusing the doors with a uniquely local flavor that spoke of the land and its people. To step through such a door was to step into a world layered with meaning, where every detail held significance and every pattern told a tale. Mosques, small yet dignified, rose beside the homes, their presence a constant reminder of the faith that bound the community together. Their mihrabs faced east, guiding the faithful in their prayers and connecting them to the wider Islamic world. Walls, whitewashed against the sun, stood in stark contrast to the vibrant life that surrounded them, their simplicity hiding centuries of devotion and spiritual contemplation. Inside these sacred spaces, voices rose in prayer. the melodic sound of faith woven into the very fabric of daily life. The call to prayer mingled with the cries of merchants and the laughter of children, creating a soundscape as rich and diverse as the Swahili culture itself. But perhaps the most haunting of all were the tombs that dotted the landscape. They stood with coral walls rounded like domes, silent sentinels marking not just the dead, but the lineage of families who had tied their memory to stone. These graves were more than mere resting places for the departed. They were monuments declaring a profound connection to the land. We belong to this coast, they seemed to say, and the coast belongs to us. In the fading light of day, these tombs took on an otherworldly quality, their coral walls glowing softly in the dying sun. As twilight descended upon the Swahili coast, the tombs were shaded by gently swaying palm trees, their fronds rustling in the evening breeze. Glowing lanterns flickered beside them, casting long shadows and creating an atmosphere of quiet reverence. Families would gather here in the cool of the evening, paying respects to their ancestors and reaffirming their ties to the land that had nurtured them for generations. The soft murmur of prayers and the gentle lapping of waves on the nearby shore created a symphony of remembrance, a testament to the enduring spirit of the Swahili people. The architecture of the Swahili was more than mere construction. It was a quiet statement etched in stone and coral. Each building, from the grandest mosque to the humblest dwelling, spoke of a people who had learned to balance the demands of commerce with the need for cultural identity. In a world of constant exchange, where goods and ideas flowed as freely as the tides, the Swahili knew how to anchor themselves to both land and sea. This unique blend of influences was evident in every aspect of Swahili architecture. The coral stone, pulled from the very waters that brought wealth and connection to distant lands, formed the foundation of their built environment. Its porous nature allowed buildings to breathe, adapting to the humid coastal climate while providing a sturdy defense against the elements. The use of this local material was a testament to the Swahili people's ingenuity and their deep connection to their maritime environment. The intricate wooden doors that graced these coral stone structures were more than just beautiful works of art. They were symbols of status and wealth, showcasing the far-reaching trade networks that had made the Swahili coast a hub of commerce and cultural exchange. Each carving told a story of distant lands and exotic goods, of skilled craftsmen and discerning patrons. The doors stood as silent witnesses to the comings and goings of merchants, scholars and pilgrims, each leaving their mark on the evolving Swahili culture. Inside these buildings, courtyards provided cool retreats from the heat of the day. Fountains burbled softly, their water a precious commodity in the sometimes harsh coastal environment. Intricately carved wooden screens filtered the bright sunlight, casting delicate patterns on whitewashed walls and creating an atmosphere of tranquil beauty. These interior spaces were as much a part of the Swahili architectural identity as the imposing coral stone facades that lined the streets. The mosques, with their simple yet elegant design, were the spiritual heart of Swahili towns. Their minarets reached towards the heavens, a visual reminder of the connection between earth and sky, between the temporal and the divine. The call to prayer that echoed from these towers 5 times a day was a rhythmic punctuation to the bustling life of the coastal settlements, a moment of pause and reflection in the midst of commerce and daily tasks. As night fell and the stars emerged above the Indian Ocean, the Swahili towns took on a magical quality. Lanterns cast a warm glow on the coral stone walls, their light dancing on the intricate carvings of doors and window frames. The sound of waves mingled with distant music and laughter, a reminder of the vibrant life that pulsed through these coastal communities even after the sun had set. The tombs, those silent guardians of memory and lineage, took on an even more profound significance in the darkness. Families would gather around them, sharing stories of their ancestors and passing down oral traditions that had been preserved for generations. The flicker of lantern light on the rounded coral walls created an atmosphere of intimacy and connection, bridging the gap between past and present, between the living and the dead. In these moments, as the cool night air carried the scent of the sea and the whisper of palm fronds, the true essence of Swahili culture was revealed. It was a culture built on the foundation of trade and exchange, yet deeply rooted in the land and sea that had shaped it. The architecture, with its blend of local materials and imported influences, was a physical manifestation of this unique identity. The Swahili people had created more than just buildings. They had crafted a living, breathing testament to their resilience, creativity, and adaptability. In a world where change was constant and new influences arrived with each tide, they had found a way to remain true to their essence while embracing the richness of cultural exchange. As dawn broke over the Indian Ocean, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, the Swahili towns would come to life once more. The coral stone walls, weathered but proud, would catch the first rays of sunlight, their warm hues a stark contrast to the deep blue of the sea. Another day of trade, prayer, and community would begin, each moment adding another layer to the rich tapestry of Swahili culture. The architecture of the Swahili coast, with its coral stone walls, intricately carved doors, and domed tombs, stood as a silent yet eloquent narrator of a people's history. It spoke of a culture that had learned to balance tradition with innovation, local identity with global connections. In every carved lintel, every rounded dome, and every whitewashed minaret, the story of the Swahili people was written. A story of resilience, adaptability, and the enduring power of cultural exchange. As the sun crept over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, the Swahili coast stirred to life. The gentle lapping of waves against wooden hulls beckoned fishermen from their slumber, their weathered hands reaching for nets and oars. With practiced ease, they pushed their dhows into the surf, sails unfurling to catch the first whispers of the morning breeze. These waters, rich with the bounty of generations past, promised a harvest of gleaming tuna, snapper, and sardines, a silver tribute from the sea that had sustained their ancestors. The rhythmic creaking of the dhows faded into the distance as the coastal villages awakened. Women emerged from coral stone houses, their vibrant kanga wraps a stark contrast to the whitewashed walls, baskets balanced expertly atop, their heads swayed with each step, brimming with the day's offerings. Coconuts plucked from nearby palms, aromatic rice, and a rainbow of spices that would soon perfume the air. Their laughter, light and melodious, drifted through narrow lanes, mingling with the excited shouts of children at play. In shaded courtyards, the steady thud of stone against stone marked the grinding of spices. Women worked with unhurried precision, their hands moving in time to an ancient rhythm. Cloves and cinnamon, cardamom and turmeric. Each spice released its essence, creating an invisible tapestry of scent that wove through the streets and alleyways. This was more than mere preparation. It was a ritual, a connection to the land and to those who had come before. As the sun climbed higher, families gathered in the cool sanctuary of shaded verandas. Here, generations came together over steaming platters of fragrant rice and rich stews. The bounty of both land and sea graced these tables. Tender fish simmered in coconut milk, okra harvested from nearby gardens, and mangoes bursting with sweetness. Each bite was a celebration of identity, a testament to the harmony between the gifts of the earth and the treasures of the ocean. To share a meal was to honor not only one's family, but the entire community, both living and ancestral. When the heat of the afternoon lay heavy upon the coast, a different rhythm took hold. Hammocks swayed gently beneath the sprawling canopies of ancient baobab trees, their gnarled trunks silent witnesses to countless generations. In this drowsy interlude, time seemed to slow, and the air filled with the cadence of storytelling. Elders, their faces etched with the wisdom of years, spoke of times long past, tales of ancestors who arrived on monsoon winds, braving treacherous seas in search of new beginnings, captivated young listeners. Stories of mischievous spirits that danced along the shoreline at twilight sent delightful shivers down small spines. But it was not just fantastical tales that were shared in these moments of respite. The elders' words carried the weight of proverbs, each carefully chosen phrase a lesson in morality, respect, and the delicate balance of community life. Young ears drank in these pearls of wisdom, ensuring that the values that had shaped the Swahili coast for centuries would continue to guide future generations. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the sand, the rhythm of the coast shifted once more. Fishermen returned, their dhows laden with the day's catch. The air filled with the sounds of bartering and friendly greetings as people gathered in the marketplace. Here, the fruits of land and sea were exchanged. Dried fish for woven baskets, intricate beadwork for bundles of cassava. More than mere commerce, these interactions were the threads that bound the community together, each transaction reinforcing bonds of trust and mutual reliance. In homes throughout the village, lamps were lit, their warm glow spilling from windows and doorways. Families gathered once more, this time to share the events of the day and to plan for tomorrow. The scent of incense mingled with the lingering aromas of dinner, creating an atmosphere of comfort and belonging. Prayer mats were unrolled, facing towards Mecca as the faithful answered the muezzin's call. The lyrical sounds of Arabic verses floated on the evening breeze, a reminder of the spiritual foundation that underpinned daily life. As night fell in earnest, a different sort of music filled the air. The rhythmic beating of drums called young and old alike to gather in open spaces. Bodies moved in time to age-old rhythms, feet stirring up dust as dancers celebrated life itself. Here, in the flicker of firelight, one could see the true spirit of the Swahili coast, a vibrant tapestry woven from threads of African, Arab, and Indian influences, yet uniquely its own. This was the unspoken heartbeat of the Swahili coast, not just a place of bustling ports and exotic trade, but a living, breathing community. It was a world where fishermen and merchants, mothers and craftsmen, elders and children all played their part in a cultural symphony that had endured for centuries. Each ordinary day, with its small rituals and shared moments, added another verse to an epic story, one of resilience, adaptation, and the enduring power of tradition. As the stars emerged, twinkling above the gentle wash of waves on the shore, the coast settled into a peaceful slumber. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and joys, but the fundamental rhythm would remain unchanged. For in this delicate balance between work and rest, trade and faith, the seen and unseen, lay the true strength of the Swahili people. It was a strength born not of grand monuments or historical battles, but of countless ordinary lives lived with purpose and grace, each one a testament to the enduring spirit of this remarkable coastal culture. Walk the streets of Lamu, Kilwa, or Zanzibar, and the houses themselves speak. Their walls, built from coral stone, glowed pale in the sun, and their carved wooden doors told stories no less intricate than any poem. Patterns of flowers, vines, and stars framed the thresholds, as if every entrance was a gateway between worlds. Private, family life within, the bustling town without. These ancient coastal cities, nestled along the Swahili coast, are living museums of architectural splendor. The coral stone buildings, weathered by centuries of salty air and tropical sun, stand as silent sentinels to a rich history of trade, culture, and artistic expression. Each structure, from the grandest merchant's mansion to the humblest fisherman's dwelling, bears witness to the unique blend of African, Arab, and Indian influences that define Swahili culture. As you approach these houses, your eyes are immediately drawn to the doors. These are not mere entryways, but works of art in their own right. Intricately carved from hardwoods like teak and mahogany, they feature elaborate designs that speak volumes about the status and tastes of the inhabitants within. Geometric patterns intertwine with floral motifs, while Quranic verses and protective symbols are seamlessly woven into the overall composition. The brass studs that often adorn these doors catch the light, creating a dazzling display that seems to dance as you move. These studs, beyond their decorative purpose, serve as a reminder of the region's connections to distant lands. Brought here by dhows laden with goods from across the Indian Ocean. Each door is a story, a family history, a testament to the craftsmanship and artistic vision of generations past. Step through one of these magnificent portals, and you enter a world of cool tranquility, a stark contrast to the heat and bustle of the narrow streets outside. The interior of a traditional Swahili house is a masterclass in climate control and spatial design. High ceilings and thick coral stone walls naturally regulate temperature, while cleverly positioned windows and air shafts ensure a constant flow of fresh air. At the heart of many of these homes lies the courtyard, an open-air sanctuary that serves as the focal point of family life. Here, light filters softly through intricate wooden latticework, casting ever-changing patterns on the stone floors below. The play of light and shadow throughout the day marks the passage of time in a gentle, almost meditative manner. In one corner of the courtyard, you might find a large clay water jar, its porous surface glistening with condensation. These jars, known as melgais, are more than mere containers. They are vital components of the home's natural cooling system, their evaporating contents helping to maintain a pleasant humidity level even in the driest months. Stone benches line the courtyard walls, offering comfortable seating for family gatherings or quiet contemplation. Potted plants and small palm trees add touches of greenery, their fronds rustling softly in the breeze that finds its way through the house's clever design. This space is a perfect embodiment of the Swahili philosophy of balance, a harmonious blend of the natural and the man-made, the functional and the beautiful. As you explore further, you'll discover that these homes are more than just shelters from the elements. They are living records of history, each room a chapter in an ongoing story of cultural exchange and adaptation. The very materials used in their construction speak to the ingenuity of the Swahili people and their deep connection to their environment. The coral stone walls, quarried from ancient reefs, bear silent witness to countless monsoon seasons. Run your hand along these surfaces, and you can almost feel the centuries of history pulsing beneath your fingertips. Each crack and crevice tells a tale of endurance, of a structure that has stood firm against the relentless assault of wind, rain, and time itself. Move through the rooms, and you'll encounter countless small details that hint at the home's rich past. A polished brass doorknob, worn smooth by generations of hands, gleams in the filtered light. These seemingly minor elements are in fact tangible links to those who came before, each touch adding another layer to the patina of history. Look down, and you'll find that even the floor beneath your feet has a story to tell. Intricate geometric patterns, crafted from locally sourced tiles, adorn many of the rooms. These designs are far more than mere decoration. They are a visual representation of the Swahili coast's position as a cultural crossroads, incorporating influences from as far afield as Persia, Arabia, and India. The seamless integration of these diverse elements into a distinctly African context is a testament to the adaptability and creativity of Swahili craftsmen. These artisans took inspiration from the wider world and transformed it into something uniquely their own, creating a visual language that is instantly recognizable as Swahili. As the day progresses and the sun begins to set, the character of these homes undergoes a subtle transformation. Lanterns are lit, their flickering flames casting dancing shadows on the intricately carved walls. The play of light and dark brings the house's decorative elements to life in new and unexpected ways, revealing details that might have gone unnoticed in the harsh light of day. In this soft, golden glow, the true magic of Swahili architecture reveals itself. The house becomes more than just a physical structure. It transforms into a living, breathing entity, a keeper of memories and secrets. The whispered conversations of long-ago inhabitants seem to echo faintly in the corners, while the scents of spices and incense linger in the air, evoking the ghosts of countless meals and ceremonies past. This architecture is, in essence, a form of memory, a tangible link to the past that continues to shape the present. These houses don't just hold people. They cradle the very spirit of centuries within their coral stone embrace. Every nook and cranny, every carved detail, every weathered surface tells a part of the grand narrative of Swahili civilization. As night falls and the stars begin to twinkle above the rooftops, you might find yourself sitting in one of these ancient courtyards, surrounded by the gentle glow of lantern light. In this moment, the boundaries between past and present seem to blur. You can almost imagine the countless generations who have sat in this very spot, gazing up at the same stars, their hopes and dreams not so different from your own. It is in these quiet moments that the true significance of Swahili architecture becomes clear. These buildings are not just remnants of a bygone era, preserved for the sake of nostalgia or tourism. They are living, breathing spaces that continue to shape the lives and identities of those who inhabit them. They are a bridge between the past and the future, a constant reminder of the rich cultural heritage that defines this unique corner of the world. In this way, the Swahili coast reveals itself not only through trade or religion, but through the very spaces its people built, lived in, and cherished. The architecture becomes a language all its own, speaking volumes about the values, beliefs, and aspirations of a culture that has weathered centuries of change while remaining true to its essential character. As you leave the cool sanctuary of these ancient homes and step back out into the narrow, winding streets, you carry with you a deeper understanding of the Swahili world. The sights, sounds, and textures of these remarkable buildings have etched themselves into your memory, becoming a part of your own story, just as they have for countless others over the centuries. The architecture of the Swahili coast is more than just a collection of beautiful buildings. It is a living, breathing testament to the power of cultural exchange, adaptation, and resilience. In every carved door, every cool courtyard, every weathered coral stone wall, we find echoes of a rich past and glimpses of a vibrant future. These houses, with their silent eloquence, continue to speak to us across the ages, inviting us to listen, to learn, and to marvel at the enduring legacy of Swahili civilization. Beyond the bustling markets and towering stone houses, the Swahili people carried their identity in the lilting cadence of words and the pulsing rhythm of song. Poetry, known as utendi and sheri, flowed like a life-giving river through the centuries. Its verses recited at joyous weddings, heated debates, and tranquil moonlit gatherings. These were not mere entertainments, but vessels of history, morality, and collective memory, carrying the essence of Swahili culture across generations. Imagine a scene beneath a palm-thatched shelter, where Swahili elders and youth sit in rapt attention. An elder, his face etched with the wisdom of years, recites poetry with measured grace. His words paint vivid pictures of ancient kings, seafaring adventures, and the timeless struggle between good and evil. The younger listeners lean forward, their eyes bright with understanding as they absorb the lessons woven into each carefully chosen phrase. Music, too, blended cultures as seamlessly as the ocean's waves merged with the sandy shore. The heartbeat of the coast pulsed through drums, their rhythms as varied as the peoples who had made this land their home. From across the sea came the haunting melodies of the oud and konan, stringed instruments that spoke of distant desert nights and perfumed gardens. When voices rose in song, they carried notes of longing, praise, and devotion, a unique fusion of African cadence and Arabian lyricism that could be found nowhere else but on this sun-drenched coastline. As dusk settles over the land, picture a traditional Tarab ensemble gathered in a courtyard. Drummers with calloused hands coax complex polyrhythms from their instruments, while string players pluck and bow melodies that seem to dance on the evening breeze. Singers, resplendent in flowing Swahili attire, lift their voices in harmony. Their songs speak of love lost and found, of the beauty of their homeland, and of the enduring spirit of their people. The music swells and ebbs like the tide, a testament to the cultural confluence that defines the Swahili world. Language was the golden thread that wove this tapestry of sound and meaning together. Kiswahili itself stood as a living bridge, its grammatical structure firmly rooted in African soil, while its vocabulary blossomed with words borrowed from Arabic, Persian, Hindi, and Portuguese. Each borrowed syllable became naturalized, absorbed into the linguistic landscape, just as foreign merchants became kin when they married into coastal families. The language was a mirror of the Swahili people themselves, adaptable, welcoming, yet fiercely proud of its unique identity. On the shoreline, where land meets sea, imagine the Swahili word bahari, ocean, drawn in elegant calligraphy upon the sand. As waves gently lap at the shore, they slowly erase the letters. A poignant reminder of the ephemeral nature of human creation in the face of nature's timeless rhythms. Yet, even as the word disappears, its meaning remains etched in the hearts and minds of those who call this coast home. When night fell and the stars emerged to dance across the sky, songs and poetry spilled from homes into the narrow streets of stone towns. The lyrical words mingled with the eternal song of the waves, creating a symphony unique to this place where Africa embraced the Indian Ocean. To live on the Swahili coast was to be surrounded by a chorus of voices, ancestors whispering through ancient ruins, neighbors calling greetings across sun-baked courtyards, lovers murmuring sweet nothings beneath swaying palms, and strangers from distant lands adding their own notes to the ever-evolving melody. In the cool of the evening, families gathered on rooftops and in shaded gardens to share stories passed down through generations. Children listened wide-eyed as grandmothers recounted tales of jinn and magical fish. each narrative a blend of local lore and influences from lands far beyond the horizon. These stories, like the poetry and songs, were more than mere entertainment. They were the threads that bound the community together, reinforcing shared values and celebrating the unique heritage of the Swahili people. The art of debate, too, flourished in this land of words. In coffee houses and public squares, men and women engaged in spirited discussions on topics ranging from theology to trade. Poetry often served as a vehicle for these intellectual jousts, with competitors composing verses on the spot to make their points with wit and eloquence. These verbal duels sharpened minds and strengthened the bonds of community, even as they sometimes revealed the fault lines between tradition and modernity that ran through Swahili society. Religious devotion found expression through both poetry and song. In mosques and madrasas, the melodic call to prayer rang out 5 times a day, its Arabic phrases a reminder of the faith that had become an integral part of Swahili identity. But alongside these orthodox expressions of piety, distinctly local forms of worship thrived. Sufi orders chanted dhikr, their rhythmic repetitions of divine names creating a hypnotic atmosphere that blurred the line between the physical and spiritual realms. The Swahili mastery of language extended beyond the spoken word. Scribes and scholars produced beautifully illuminated manuscripts, their pages adorned with intricate geometric patterns and flowing Arabic script. These books preserved not only religious texts, but also histories, medical treatises, and works of literature that reflected the cosmopolitan nature of Swahili intellectual life. In the bustling ports, the Babel of tongues testified to the coast's role as a crossroads of cultures. Merchants haggled in a pidgin of Swahili, Arabic, and Portuguese, while sailors swapped tales in languages from every corner of the Indian Ocean world. Yet even in this polyglot environment, Kiswahili remained the lingua franca, its flexibility and expressiveness making it the ideal medium for communication across cultural boundaries. As trade winds brought ships from distant shores, they also carried new words and concepts that enriched the Swahili lexicon. Terms for exotic spices, novel technologies, and unfamiliar philosophies were quickly absorbed and adapted, reflecting the open-minded curiosity that characterized Swahili culture. This linguistic agility allowed the Swahili people to serve as intermediaries between Africa's interior and the wider world, facilitating exchanges of goods, ideas, and beliefs that shaped the history of an entire continent. Yet, for all its cosmopolitan influences, Swahili poetry and song remained deeply rooted in the landscape of the coast. Verses praised the beauty of coral islands and mangrove forests, celebrated the courage of fishermen who braved treacherous waters, and lamented the fickleness of monsoon rains. The natural world was not merely a backdrop, but an active participant in the cultural life of the Swahili people. Its rhythms and moods reflected in every aspect of artistic expression. As centuries passed, the forms of Swahili poetry and music evolved, incorporating new instruments, meters, and themes. Yet the core elements, the emphasis on rhythm, the interplay of African and Middle Eastern influences, the celebration of language itself, remained constant. Even as modern media brought global pop culture to the coast, traditional forms of expression continued to thrive, adapting to new contexts while maintaining their essential character. In the end, it was this ability to change while remaining true to its roots that ensured the survival of Swahili culture through centuries of political and economic upheaval. The poetry and songs of the coast were not fossils to be preserved in museums, but living traditions that continued to evolve and speak to new generations. They were the voice of a people who had always looked outward to the sea, while keeping their feet firmly planted in African soil. A people whose identity was as fluid and enduring as the ocean that had shaped their world. And so, as the moon rose over the Indian Ocean and the stars reflected in its calm waters, the echoes of poetry and song continued to resound along the Swahili coast. In every word spoken, every melody sung, the spirit of a unique and resilient culture lived on, a testament to the power of language and music to preserve identity in a world of constant change. As the sun rises over the Swahili coast, its golden rays paint the horizon, illuminating a world where faith and commerce intertwine like the threads of a finely woven kanga. By the 10th century, Islam had already taken root in this land of spice and sea, carried on the winds that filled the sails of dhows from Arabia and beyond. The melodious call to prayer echoes across stone towns, a spiritual compass guiding fishermen as they cast their nets at dawn and merchants as they close their ledgers at dusk. Yet, this Islam was not merely transplanted onto African soil. It was nurtured and transformed by the rhythms of coastal life, blending with ancestral customs that whispered through generations. The result was a unique tapestry of belief, where the teachings of the Quran found harmony with age-old African wisdom, in the quiet corners of homes and the bustling marketplaces alike. One could sense the presence of both Allah and the spirits of the ancestors, coexisting in a delicate balance. As the muezzin's voice fades, carried away by the salt-laden breeze, the day's activities begin in earnest. The faithful, having completed their morning prayers, turned their attention to the affairs of trade. For in this world, commerce and spirituality are as inseparable as the sea and shore. A merchant's word is his bond, held as sacred as the verses he recites in prayer. Business deals often commence with blessings, invoking divine favor and protection over the transaction at hand. In the narrow alleys of the bazaar, Swahili traders in crisp white kanzu robes exchange greetings and handshakes. Their gestures are more than mere formalities. They are affirmations of a shared code of honor. To cheat a partner in these streets is to commit a grave offense, not just against man, but against the very fabric of society. It is to disturb the delicate spiritual equilibrium that binds the community together, as surely as the coral stone binds the walls of their homes. This interweaving of faith and commerce moves with the predictability of the tides, constant and rhythmic, just as the ocean's ebb and flow shapes the coastline. So to do spirituality and trade mold the character of Swahili society. They are forces impossible to separate, each influencing and being influenced by the other in an eternal dance. As the day progresses, the sun climbs higher, casting shorter shadows across the town square. Here, at the heart of the settlement, stands a testament to the Swahili fusion of belief and daily life. The mosque. Unlike the grand, imposing structures found in other Islamic lands, these coastal houses of worship are humble sanctuaries, built from locally sourced coral stone and adorned with intricately carved wooden beams. They stand as markers of both devotion and community pride. Step inside one of these mosques, and you enter a world of quiet contemplation. Oil lamps cast a warm glow across walls of weathered coral, their light dancing on geometric patterns carved into wooden doors. These sacred spaces serve as anchors for the coastal towns, grounding the community in faith just as surely as the harbors secure their ships. Every worshipper who crosses the threshold is reminded that the realm of the spirit and the world of trade are but reflections of one another, each incomplete without its counterpart. As the afternoon wears on, The call to prayer once again rings out, momentarily hushing the chatter of the marketplace. Merchants pause in their negotiations, fishermen secure their boats, and craftsmen set aside their tools. For a brief moment, the entire town seems to hold its breath, united in a shared act of devotion. It is a powerful reminder that no matter how pressing the concerns of commerce may be, there is always time to turn one's thoughts to the divine. In the cool of the evening, as the sun dips towards the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, the day's activities begin to wind down. Families gather for the evening meal, sharing stories of their day's successes and challenges. In these intimate moments, the true strength of Swahili society becomes apparent. It is a strength born not just of economic prosperity or religious devotion, but of the harmonious blending of the two. As night falls and the stars begin to twinkle overhead, the town settles into a peaceful slumber. The muezzin's final call of the day drifts across rooftops and through open windows, a lullaby for a people whose lives are guided by the twin compasses of faith and trade. In the darkness, the outline of dhows can be seen bobbing gently in the harbor, ready to set sail with the morning tide, carrying not just goods, but also the unique Swahili blend of culture and belief to distant shores. This cycle of prayer and commerce, of spiritual reflection and worldly engagement, repeats day after day along the Swahili coast. It is a rhythm as old as the stones of the mosques and as enduring as the ocean itself. In this world, where the sacred and the secular dance in perpetual harmony, the Swahili people have forged an identity that is uniquely their own, one that honors both their African roots and their Islamic faith, their entrepreneurial spirit and their devotion to community. As we reflect on this vibrant tapestry of Swahili life, we are reminded of the power of cultural synthesis. The story of the Swahili coast is not one of conquest or assimilation, but of adaptation and integration. It is a testament to the human capacity for finding common ground, for building bridges between seemingly disparate worlds. In the bustling markets and quiet mosques of these coastal towns, we see a living example of how faith and commerce can coexist and even thrive together, each enriching the other. The legacy of this unique fusion continues to shape the Swahili coast today. While modern influences have inevitably brought changes, the core values of faith, community, and honest trade remain deeply ingrained in the cultural DNA of the region. Visitors to these shores can still sense the echoes of centuries past in the call to prayer, the rhythmic chanting of the Quran, and the lively banter of the marketplace. As we conclude our journey through this segment of Swahili history, we are left with a profound appreciation for the delicate balance achieved by these coastal communities. They have shown us that it is possible to embrace new ideas without losing one's cultural identity, to engage in global trade without sacrificing spiritual values. In a world that often seems divided by differences in belief and economic systems, the Swahili example offers a hopeful alternative, a reminder that faith and commerce, when woven together with care and respect, can create a fabric strong enough to withstand the tests of time and change. The Swahili coast was never just a place of trade or conquest. It was, and still is, a living archive, its stone walls, wooden doors, and winding alleys carrying centuries of layered memory. Every carved pattern, every proverb, every spice-scented breeze speaks of a world that welcomed strangers yet remained deeply rooted in its own soil. From the moment you set foot on these shores, you're enveloped in a tapestry of history woven with threads of countless cultures. The air itself seems to whisper tales of distant lands and ancient voyages. As you walk through the narrow streets of coastal towns, Your fingers trace the intricate patterns carved into weathered wooden doors, each telling a story of craftsmanship passed down through generations. The architecture here is a testament to the coast's enduring spirit. Coral stone houses stand proudly, their walls a patchwork of coral fragments and lime mortar, a unique blend of local ingenuity and imported techniques. These structures have weathered centuries of sun, salt, and storm, much like the resilient people who call this coast home. In the soft, golden light of dawn, the true magic of the Swahili coast reveals itself. As the sun rises over the Indian Ocean, it paints the ancient walls in hues of amber and rose, bringing to life the intricate carvings and delicate stonework that adorn every surface. It's in these quiet moments that you can almost hear the echoes of history reverberating through time. Though empires rose and fell, the coast endured. The blending of cultures became its strength, shaping a people both outward-looking and inwardly proud. It was here that the ocean whispered to fishermen, that markets hummed with voices from across seas, and that mosques called the faithful at dawn, binding daily life to eternity. The rhythm of life on the Swahili coast is as constant as the tides. As the first light of day breaks over the horizon, the haunting melody of the call to prayer rises over coastal towns. The sound carries on the breeze, mingling with the gentle lapping of waves against wooden dhows. Fishermen, their faces etched with lines of wisdom and salt, prepare their vessels for another day at sea, a ritual as old as time itself. In bustling marketplaces, the air is thick with the aroma of exotic spices and the melody of a dozen languages. Traders from distant lands haggle over bolts of vibrant cloth and strings of gleaming pearls. Their voices a cacophony of cultures colliding and merging. It's here, amidst the chaos and color, that you truly understand the Swahili coast's role as a crossroads of civilizations. The mosques that dot the coastline stand as silent sentinels, their minarets reaching towards the heavens. These sacred spaces are more than just places of worship. They are the beating heart of communities, where faith and tradition intertwine. The intricate geometric patterns adorning their walls speak of mathematical precision and divine inspiration, a visual representation of the order and beauty found in the natural world. As day fades into night, the coast takes on a different character. The setting sun paints the sky in a riot of colors, reflecting off the calm waters of the Indian Ocean. In the gathering twilight, storytellers weave tales of legendary seafarers and mythical creatures, keeping alive the oral traditions that have shaped Swahili culture for centuries. Today, echoes of that heritage remain alive in music, language, craft, and ritual. To walk these shores is to feel time stretch in both directions, reminding us that history is not only what is written, but what is lived and remembered. The Swahili language itself is a living testament to the coast's rich history, a melodious blend of Bantu, Arabic, Persian, and European influences. It carries within its vocabulary the story of centuries of cultural exchange. Each word is a tiny time capsule, preserving the memory of distant traders, conquerors, and pilgrims who left their mark on these shores. In the hands of skilled artisans, ancient crafts continue to thrive. Woodcarvers chip away at blocks of mahogany, their chisels following patterns passed down through generations. Weavers sit at looms, their fingers dancing across warp and weft, creating intricate kanga cloths that tell stories through color and symbol. These are not mere souvenirs for tourists, but living traditions that connect the present to the past. Music pulses through the veins of coastal life, a rhythmic heartbeat that echoes the ebb and flow of the tides. The haunting melodies of the tarab, with its fusion of African, Arabic, and Indian influences, speak of love, loss, and the eternal dance between land and sea. In the pounding rhythms of the ngoma drums, you can hear the footsteps of ancestors and the pulse of a culture that refuses to be forgotten. Rituals and ceremonies mark the passage of time and the cycles of life. From the joyous celebrations of weddings, where brides are adorned with henna and gold, to the solemn observances of religious festivals, these traditions serve as anchors, mooring communities to their shared past while navigating the currents of modernity. The ruins that dot the coastline are not mere relics of a bygone era, but living monuments that continue to shape the present. Children play among the weathered stones of ancient forts, their laughter blending with the crash of waves against time-worn walls. These crumbling structures are not barriers, but bridges, connecting generations and reminding us that history is not a distant, dusty thing, but a living, breathing presence. As you stand on these shores, feeling the warm sand between your toes and the salt spray on your face, you become acutely aware of your place in the grand tapestry of time. The Swahili coast is a place where past and present coexist in harmonious balance, where every sunrise brings with it the promise of new discoveries, while honoring the wisdom of ages past. To truly understand the Swahili coast is to embrace its contradictions. It is a place of constant change, yet timeless tradition, of outward-looking curiosity and deep-rooted pride. Here, the boundaries between land and sea, between one culture and another, blur and shift like the tides. It is a reminder that identity is not a fixed point, but a fluid, ever-evolving concept shaped by the ebb and flow of history. As night falls and the stars emerge, twinkling like scattered diamonds across the velvet sky, you can almost feel the weight of centuries pressing down upon you. Yet, it is not a burden, but a gift. A living legacy that continues to shape and inspire. The Swahili coast is more than just a geographical location. It is a state of mind, a way of being that embraces the richness of human experience in all its complexity. In the end, the true magic of the Swahili coast lies not in its ancient stones or faded manuscripts, but in the vibrant spirit of its people. It is they who keep the flame of tradition burning bright, who continue to write new chapters in an age-old story. To walk these shores is to become part of that story, to add your own small thread to the vast, colorful tapestry of Swahili culture. As you leave, the rhythmic sound of waves lapping against the shore follows you, a gentle reminder that the coast's story is far from over. It continues to unfold with each passing day, each cultural exchange, each whispered tale passed from elder to child. The Swahili coast stands as a testament to the enduring power of human connection, a living legacy that will continue to inspire and enchant for generations to come. Beyond the bustling markets and grand mosques, the true essence of Swahili life unfolded in the quiet corners of everyday existence. In sun-dappled courtyards, families gathered beneath the sprawling branches of ancient mango trees, their leaves casting a gentle shade over the rhythms of daily life. Here, skilled hands wove intricate patterns into fine mats, while young voices recited verses from time-worn palm leaf texts, each word a bridge between generations. These intimate spaces, sheltered from the clamor of commerce, nurtured the beating heart of Swahili culture. The steady thump of grain being pounded echoed through narrow alleyways, blending with the joyous laughter of children at play. As evening fell, the air filled with the soft murmur of neighbors exchanging stories and gossip, their words weaving an invisible tapestry that bound the community together. In these moments, far from the eyes of foreign traders or the grandeur of religious ceremonies, the true fabric of Swahili society took shape. It was a cloth woven from countless small gestures, a shared meal, a whispered lullaby, the patient instruction of an elder to a child learning a craft. Each thread, seemingly insignificant on its own, came together to create a rich and vibrant whole. The kitchens of Swahili homes told their own tales of cultural fusion and ancestral memory. Clay pots simmered with fragrant coconut rice, its aroma mingling with the sharp tang of spices carried across vast oceans. Fish, freshly caught from the nearby waters, sizzled in pans, seasoned by generations of use. For special occasions, skilled hands crafted sweet halwa, its sticky perfection a testament to both local ingenuity and far-flung influences. These meals were more than mere sustenance. They were living history, each bite a connection to both the fertile soil beneath their feet and the distant shores that had shaped their heritage. Families gathered around woven mats, spread with clay dishes, the act of sharing food as much a ritual as any performed in the grand mosques. Here, elders passed down not just recipes, but the stories behind them. Tales of lean years and bountiful harvests. Of ingredients discovered through trade and techniques refined over centuries. As darkness fell and the heat of the day gave way to the cool embrace of evening, another form of sustenance took center stage. Under skies thick with stars, elders gathered children close, their weathered faces illuminated by the soft glow of oil lamps. In voices rich with wisdom and wonder, they spun tales that had been passed down through countless generations. These were not mere bedtime stories, but the very foundations of Swahili identity. Heroes of legend came alive in the flickering lamplight, their deeds a reminder of the virtues valued by their society. Trickster spirits danced through moonlit forests, teaching lessons of cunning and caution. The great deeds of ancestors were recounted with pride, linking each listener to a lineage stretching back into the mists of time. But it was not just the content of these tales that mattered. The act of storytelling itself was a sacred tradition, a way of preserving knowledge and reinforcing the bonds of community. Children learned to listen with rapt attention, absorbing not just the words, but the cadence and rhythm of their elders' speech. In time, they too would take on the mantle of storyteller, ensuring that the wisdom of the past would never be lost. These nightly gatherings served another purpose as well. They were a reminder that the Swahili world extended far beyond the physical boundaries of their towns and villages. Through stories, they could travel to distant lands, encounter fearsome creatures, and witness the deeds of gods and mortals alike. In a society shaped by trade and cultural exchange, these tales were a way of making sense of a vast and often bewildering world. The stories also reinforced the deep connection between the Swahili people and their environment. Tales of sea spirits and land jinn reflected the dual nature of their coastal existence, forever balanced between the mysteries of the ocean and the solidity of the earth. Fables featuring clever animals imparted practical knowledge about the local flora and fauna, while also teaching important moral lessons. As the night deepened and young eyelids grew heavy, the final stories often turned to themes of cycles and return. Just as the tide ebbed and flowed, so too did the fortunes of individuals and nations. The past was never truly gone, these tales whispered. It lingered in the air like salt spray, retreating only to surge back with renewed force. This understanding of time as cyclical rather than linear was fundamental to the Swahili worldview. It gave them resilience in the face of hardship, knowing that good times would return. It also instilled a sense of responsibility to honor the legacy of those who had come before, and to preserve their knowledge and traditions for future generations. As families drifted off to sleep, the echoes of these stories lingered in the air, mingling with the distant sound of waves lapping against the shore. In dreams, children might find themselves walking alongside legendary heroes or conversing with wise spirits. The boundary between the mundane world and the realm of myth grew thin, allowing imagination and memory to intertwine. With the first light of dawn, the cycle would begin anew. Women would rise to kindle cooking fires, their practiced hands bringing yesterday's tales to life through the preparation of time-honored recipes. Children would awaken with fragments of nocturnal adventures still clinging to their minds, eager to share their dreams and hear more stories. In the marketplace, fishermen would hawk their early morning catch, their cries blending with the call to prayer from nearby merits. Craftsmen would open their workshops, fingers deftly shaping wood, metal, and cloth into objects both beautiful and practical. Each item they created carried within it the echoes of countless similar objects made by their forebears, a tangible link to the past. Scholars and students would gather in madrasas, their voices rising and falling in the rhythmic recitation of sacred texts. Here, the written word held sway, preserving knowledge across vast distances of both space and time. Yet, even in these formal settings, the art of oral storytelling was not forgotten. Teachers would often punctuate their lessons with anecdotes and parables, bringing dry facts to life through the power of narrative. As the sun climbed higher, casting its heat across whitewashed walls and narrow streets, the pace of life would slow. In shaded courtyards, old men might gather to play bow, the click of seeds against the wooden board accompanied by good-natured banter and reminiscences of days gone by. Women would meet at communal wells, exchanging news and gossip as they drew water for their households. Throughout it all, the steady rhythm of everyday life would continue. The pounding of grain, the weaving of mats, the mending of nets. These seemingly mundane tasks were the foundation upon which the grand edifice of Swahili civilization rested. Without them, there would be no trade, no learning, no art. As another day drew to a close, families would once again gather in their courtyards. The aroma of spiced rice and grilled fish would fill the air, mingling with the scent of night-blooming jasmine. Children would settle in, eyes wide with anticipation, ready to hear the next installment of an endless story. The story of their people, their land, and their place in the vast tapestry of the world. And so the cycle would continue, each day both unique and familiar. A constant interplay between tradition and innovation, between the demands of the present and the whispers of the past. In these quiet moments of daily life, far from the gaze of history books or the attention of foreign observers, the true heart of Swahili culture beat on, strong and steady, a rhythm as eternal as the tides themselves.